Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dr. Laurie Marbas, and I'd like to welcome Dr. Bassem Youssef. How are you, sir?
Thank you so much. I'm very glad to be here, and I'm looking forward for this interview.
Well, thank you. And I will say I'm a huge fan.
Thank you.
Your history it's almost like reading a fiction book. I'll tell you. So you're from Egypt. And can you tell us a little bit about, one, why you even went into medicine as you were a cardiothoracic surgeon and what it was like practicing in Egypt, and then what led you to TV?
Well, a big part of us going to medicine in the Middle East is to please our parents. And I joke about that a lot. We want to rise to society and parents' expectations. But, once a nerd, always a nerd. So I continued with that. I studied in and I tried to excel as much as possible. And I became a heart surgeon. But I always felt that there was something missing. So when the revolution happened, I started to do these short YouTube videos. And it took the Arab world by storm. And before I know it, I'm hosting a TV show styled like it's kind of like a political satire show, kind of like The Daily Show here by Jon Stewart, now Trevor Noah. And that's how I transitioned from medicine into comedy and satire.
I think you went really quickly over that.
Yes.
So this was a very interesting transition because you just started in your laundry room. Is that correct? With
yes. There was like an empty room that we were preparing for our kids. And we were just like putting the dirty clothes there. So there was a space for me to set up a camera and a background and a desk. And I started doing the show. And it started from there. So Google and Microsoft started from a garage. I started from a laundry room.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm not as rich though. So something is definitely missing.
We're missing something, but you're changing lives though. As far as your political satire hero, Jon Stewart, where did that come from? So how did you even hear about Jon Stewart? I mean, was this fairly common to see something like that in the Middle East?
So we had CNN in the Middle East, and CNN once a week had the global edition by Jon Stewart. And I was fascinated watching him. I didn't know who he is or what does he represent and what is Republicans and what are Democrats and what is Fox News. I didn't understand anything of that. So he made me actually study American politics. And then I followed him on YouTube. At that time, YouTube allowed for us to watch the Daily Show. And it started from there. It started quite remotely.
So how did this idea kind of start to percolate in your mind? You're like, I think I'm going to enjoy this. We have an interesting situation where you were in Egypt to actually develop your own comedy. I mean, transitioning from surgeon to comedian.
I at that time, I didn't actually think about transitioning. I thought that this is some kind of a side gig that I would do on the weekends. And, at that time I was accepted in a clinical fellowship in Cleveland, and I was leaving to Cleveland. So I didn't really think about that thing. I thought, maybe somebody will discover me on the internet a year from now when I come back. But in 3 weeks, there were millions of people already watching. So that was crazy.
Yeah. And from what I can see, it was 5 million views in 3 months.
Yes. And then I had the show, which amassed to 40 million viewers per episode on TV.
Wow. Amazing. And that ran for 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until it was abruptly interrupted.
Yes. And I would encourage everyone to watch Tickling Giants, because I was impressed is that you actually were filming this a lot. I mean, you were filming as you were moving along. Would you ever think that everything that was being filmed as you were living this would be turned into a documentary?
Well, I didn't really think about that because I was more concerned about doing the show. There were so many things happening around me, and I didn't want to be distracted by it. So I let it happen. And it's as if like you're like in a very deep sleep and you woke up and you find a documentary about you. So that was the feeling.
Wow. Because that's what I thought was so fascinating. They even you had footage of you actually assisting those in the square during the
Yes.
revolution as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine what that's like. I was in the military. I was never in a combat situation or in a situation like that. I can't fathom what that must have been like. Were you just, what were you thinking, or what was it like?
Well, that was something new for us too, because we weren't used to street wars or street clashes like this. This was the biggest event in our modern history, and I find myself compelled to go and help people, as like many other doctors. I wasn't special. There was like thousands of doctors helping. It was not just me, and it was very tense. It was dangerous. But doctors, we were not really doing the fighting. We were basically on the further back trying to help people. And it was very intense. Very, very
Goodness.
intense.
And then as far as when you're sitting down to decide how you're going to plan your shows, where do you draw from? I mean, are you looking at Jon Stewart saying he kind of goes this way with the comedy, or was there just so much material that it was fairly easy to come up with?
No, it's not about it's not just the material. I mean, the material is always there, but what you do with it, that what we had to figure out. So it is different because not many people in Egypt were following Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert at that time. So I had to educate myself and educate the team around me by showing them what does it look like and how to write. It was kind of like monkey see, monkey do at the beginning. And until we basically got our own pace and made the show our own instead of just copying someone else.
I see. I mean, you had some really talented individuals writing and coming up with the scripts, and then
Yeah,
different.
it was an incredible team effort from everybody.
Wow. And there was one scene in Tickling Giants where there were, I mean, literally well, there were a few actually outside your door. I mean, I can't imagine how frightening that must have been for you and your staff and your family.
Yeah, there were people that were gathering. The government pushed people to gather around the theater to threaten to burn down the theater, to attack, to harass the people coming in. And it's funny now because in retrospect, I didn't really care about what's happening outside. I actually cared about finishing the script in time for the filming, for the shooting of the television. Because if you ended up with a bad script, nobody will make excuses for you saying, "Oh, he was under siege. People were threatening him." At the end of the day, it's a product, and you have to do your best to come up with this product. So I didn't really think. A lot of people say, like, "How did you deal with this? You must be brave." It's like I wasn't brave. I was just detached. I was I was just focused on the work because I didn't care. I didn't want to. I didn't want that to be affected by anything.
Right. And what about your family? There's a little bit of mention of them. How was your wife? And she's struggling with that, because I'm sure she must have been very worried.
My wife has been the most supportive person ever by just understanding what I go through and being there when I needed it. She never put extra pressure on me. Sometimes a lot of people don't get that. Sometimes when you are in a relationship, the best thing a spouse or a partner can do to the other is not to be an extra load or not to worry you more with their worry about you. And she was a master in doing that.
So a master of support without getting you extra worried
Yes.
because she was worried.
Yes, exactly. Well, of course she was worried, but she didn't make it visible and she didn't put that out there. So I don't have to worry about her, worry about me.
Excellent. Well, I would agree. I've been married almost 27 years, and that's how you do it. As far as, so you left when you felt, when the show was canceled, they said no more because you were pushing boundaries. But as far as when you came to the US, what were your plans? And anywhere during that time, did you transition to the plant-based diet? So that's what I find so fascinating too, is
No, actually, I transitioned to plant-based diet the last year that I was in Egypt.
Okay.
And so I was already doing the show and I was already talking about plant-based diet. Not much vocally because I had other problems with politics to deal with. But I would go on interviews with Arab anchors and they say, what? You don't eat meat? You don't eat chicken? Not even fish? No dairy, no eggs? That was such an alien concept. I'm not saying that I'm the only vegan in the Arab world, but like I would say that I was the most vocal and famous vegan in the Arab world. With that, I mean, like the vegan person with the most reach. That's what I mean. And it's so the first year I transitioned because a friend of mine who is an Egyptian who used to go with me to high school, he was diagnosed by MS. And when I heard MS, I was, devastated because, as you know, MS is the boogeyman of medicine. It's like you don't know where it comes from, how it comes, how it develops, how do we get rid of it. It's basically the Alzheimer of young people. It's and he was my age, and he was diagnosed in his mid-30s, even early 30s, and so when I heard, I was devastated. But the person who told me, no, he's okay now. He followed this kind of diet and lifestyle, but he's okay now. It's like, no, what? I wanna hear that. So I went and I met him. And I remember the date, 15th of September, 2013. I was with him in a restaurant, and I was eating my last double cheeseburger and fries and Diet Coke. And he was telling me the story. And once I finished the meal, and I said, "That's my last non-vegan meal. That's it. I'm done." And I got sold so much, and he was amazing. He was the first person who told me about forks over knives and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn lectures and all of the others, all of the stars of the plant-based diet medical community. And I started to watch that, and I said, like, that's it. I mean, I don't know how. And you have to understand, for 40 years of my life, I was a meat eater, a cheese lover, a sugar addict. My breakfast with like 3 to 4 fried eggs plus the spread cheese on my bread. That's my breakfast. That's how I started my day. And I didn't have any medical conditions or any medical problems, but I said I didn't want to wait until something happened. So I remember when I transitioned, the first 3 days, I felt, oh, I'm sleeping very deeply. That's the first thing that I noticed. And of course, the bowel movement, as you know. So, and so that was the first year. Then I came to the United States. And there, I did 2 things. One that's related to comedy and entertainment, because I couldn't do that in Egypt anymore. I couldn't do that in the Arab world. So I had to come here and reinvent myself and do comedy in a language that is not mine. So tomorrow, for example, I'm having shows in New Jersey, in New Brunswick. I'm now doing stand-up comedy in English. I'm touring around the United States. My show attracts both Americans and Arabs, and it was tough, of course, at the beginning. But now I'm writing in English, producing in English, performing in English, pitching in English, and I'm trying to reinvent myself and recreate a different path for me in this new country, in America. So that was hard. That was because there was always the temptation to go back and compromise and take a lot of money and have a much safer life, financially, I mean. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to compromise. So I did that. And on the plant-based diet, what I did is that I raised some funds and I produced a show and a platform called Plant B, and the website is plantb.tv. And I would claim that this is the only bilingual platform in the whole world. It's the only platform in Arabic and in English. So if you go into the website, it has you can actually switch the language, and it's a full website in English and it's a full website in language. We don't just like have recipes. We don't just have articles. We have food plans, and we have videos. We produce like videos, and the videos are in Arabic and in English. So if you're watching, the Arabic part is subtitled in English and the English part is subtitled in Arabic. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it or not.
I did. I watched them all.
Yeah, and it was kind of like we wanted to integrate humor and in the same time integrate science and knowledge. And we launched that in Ramadan this year, which was in June, which is the most difficult month ever that you can tell Arabs to turn vegan. And what happened is that we had a lot of pushback, and I would like to talk about that with you, the pushback, yes, the resistance in the middle, because it's different. Maybe it's different, maybe it's the same in the Western world, but it was interesting to say the least. And we created something called the 21 days challenge, where you try to sign up and stick to the challenge for 21 days. And we had 250,000 people signing up in 4 months.
Wow.
And every day, my inbox, people send me stuff telling me, you have changed my life. My parents, they're old, they're in the 70s, they're the last people who go vegan, they have diabetes, now they are plant-based, and their diabetes is gone. I'm the people that they send me messages every day and telling me how their recovery time are better in the gym, their inflammation is less. People with like autoimmune disease, with endocrine diseases, and people losing weight. We've also created the biggest plant-based diet page in the world, called the Plant-Based Diet Egypt. You have like 500,000 people there. Wow. And it's by invitation, so it's not even an open. It's not even an open page. So you actually have to request to join. So, and that's still 500,000 people. So I think we have created an impact. We have somewhere around 20 million views on the different platforms of plant-based diet, of Plan B. And, but of course the resistance was just like, I can write a book just about the kind of resisting comments that I get.
So how do you, well, tell us some of the more common resistance or the comments that you make, because I mean, we all have our places that we've struggled with others.
So in the Middle East, we have one of the first, like it's the religion. People come from the side of religion, and they say, well, God has gave us the blessing of eating meat. Why are you forbidding it? I say, like, first of all, I'm not forbidding you from eating anything. Second of all, God is giving you all of his blessings and all of his gifts, and it's up to you to choose. God did not assign a certain portion of meat per day that you should eat, or how much dairy you should eat. It's just like, where is, like, did God tell you how many glasses of milk you should drink? He said, like, it's there, you can use it. And so religion is huge, and religion is very strong when it comes. And also there's also the ridicule, the whole thing about, I cannot imagine living my life without meat. And, all right, that's fine. But the thing is, it's not, and I'm sure that we have here people who oppose the plant-based diet style. It's like they wouldn't let other people do it. They would have to go and intervene. So if anybody like would put a cheeseburger on his profile, nobody would say, this is so bad for your health, stop it. But once you say, I'm eating a salad and I'm trying to be plant-based, everybody is like, how come you do this? Which is crazy. Which is crazy. If you're eating the McDonald's and the Subways and the Wendy's and the Burger Kings, nobody has a problem with that. But once you say, I want to eat healthier, everybody becomes a nutritionist. Everybody starts to try out, where do you get your vitamins? Where do you get your protein? Where do you get your, and I said, like, do you know where do you get your vitamins or proteins? Do you even know, in Mr. Nutritionist, what are you eating and what is good for you? And do you understand how omega-3 and omega-6 are metabolized in your body? Do you understand that actually what you're eating is actually killing your body ability to deal with omega-3? And do you understand what this food does to your epithelium? So yeah, so we have a lot, and of course there's the fun part, the conspiracy lover part, which is one of the funniest comments I ever had was, "Oh, this is a Western conspiracy to make Arabs weaker by not eating meat, so they can come and take us over." It's like, first of all, we're not doing very well on the international community. I don't think that we're a superpower or something. I'm not taking anything away from you. So maybe if we go to a different route and eat plants, maybe we'll become stronger and defeat the evil West. And I remember like that might be the funniest one. Somebody said, "Oh, it's a Jewish conspiracy because, as you know, Jews don't eat meat." And it's like the basis of your conspiracy is wrong. You don't even understand anything. And the thing is, like, because here in America, there's a lot of people making fun of, like, you know, the right wing and the people in the Bible Belt. But believe me, we have a lot of crazy people on our side too. And you even had a pastor. I think you had a pastor, an American pastor, saying that veganism is a way for people to become cannibals, something like this. So you can have all different kinds of crazy conspiracies, and it was, you know, and you just like learn not to engage with that. So like, I think there are like three things I do. If anybody wants to take it to religion, I only tell them, like, I never forbid anything for you. You can eat whatever you want, but but be thoughtful. And if you want to eat meat every now and then, go ahead, but you just have to think of what you're eating. And I think that's okay. I mean, I'm not a militant vegan, because that's another thing that I think plays a role in alienating a lot of people against the vegan lifestyle, is the vegan activists. And I understand what they're doing, and I appreciate what they're doing, and I understand how they go out and to protect the animals. But sometimes guilting people doesn't work, and it can actually have the total opposite effect. And what happens is that a lot of people, when I talk to people about plant-based diet, they attack me while projecting whatever they see from the vegan activist on me. Which I never do, you know. Right. And I even tell them, so a lot of people tell me, I'm plant-based, but I can't stop eating fish. And I say, how many times do you eat fish? It's like once or twice a week. That's fine. It's a good start. Go ahead. Like, can I cheat with a burger every now? It's fine. Any change is good. I always say any change is good. And I even say, oh, you're gonna go to Italy and you don't want to miss the pizza. Eat the pizza in Italy. Eat all the cheese you want. When you come back, it's what you do 95% of your time. So I am plant-based diet. I feel much better when I'm 100% plant-based diet. I have to admit, when I travel, when I don't have access to plant-based diet, when I am tempted, when I'm in Paris and there's this amazing pastry that they do in Paris, I'll eat it. I will eat the pizza in Italy. I will eat the gelato when I'm there. But that is less than 5% of my intake around the week or the month or the year. And that's fine. I tell people, if you have a chronic disease, I strongly advise that you go 100% plant-based diet. If you go on like a really cleansing routine and you do plant-based diet and you go like on a 21 days, that's fine. And if you want to come back and cheat, it's okay. It's what you do 95% of the time.
Absolutely. I just don't, when I transitioned about 8 years ago to a plant-based diet, I had one yogurt and I didn't feel well for about
Yeah.
24 hours. So actually, I don't cheat anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well. The thing is that same happens to me when I do some cheese, whatever here in America. I feel very bad.
Mm.
But I have to say, and we have to admit that in Europe it's different.
Mm.
The cheese in Europe, I think it is not as horrible as America. It's still, cheese is horrible and dairy is horrible anyways for your health. But I think for a cheat, when I cheat in Europe, the effect is not as bad.
Mm-hmm.
But in America, it's very difficult. America and the Middle East, and I think because most of our emperors come from the Middle East, from America too. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's funny because, you know, just to bring religion, just the kind of from the Christian component, because I am Christian myself, the Bible in Genesis 1:29 is God gives us plants to eat.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we're just going back to the original prescription. And so
well, in the Quran, God gave us plants, but He also talks about like the lamb, like talks about the you know, the cattle, whatever. But they want to choose the meat, so that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the plant BT, I will tell you, they're very well done. They're very humorous. Your personality comes through, and then you have interviews with many of my friends, some of the experts in
all
our
of them.
field.
Dr.
Yes.
Scott Stoll, Dr. Caldwell S. Leston, Dr. Michael Greger, all of them, like the whole, everybody, all of the people who shaped my journey towards plant-based diet.
Absolutely. The first book I read was The China Study. I read it in 2 days. I was like, I'm done. Literally overnight, 3 teenagers and the husband. I'm like, we're going to a plant-based diet, which brings me to the segue of family. So when you decided this was my last meal, what did you go home and tell your wife?
So my wife kind of like, she didn't get it at the beginning. And we had at that time a 1 year old at that time. Yes. And but I said, okay, you do your thing, I'm going to do my thing, I'm going to be more strict going on. And but what happened is a couple of years later, my wife has a long life condition of irritable bowel syndrome, and she suffered a lot. She tried all kinds of therapies, didn't work, and then she ditched dairy, and voila, now she feels much better. My daughter is vegan. She's 7 years old. She's vegan. She doesn't really understand what vegan is, because so if in the school, if they're like serving pizza, she's like, I can't eat that because I'm vegan. There's cheese. Is that vegan cheese? No, so I can't eat it. But then if you're gonna go to like a birthday party, she will always ask for the chicken wings. So she doesn't really understand it yet. That's fine. So, and again, what we do at home is, again, what do you get in the grocery? What's in your pantry? What's in your fridge? So everything in our pantry and our fridge is 100% vegan. My wife might buy eggs once every 6 weeks or once every month, which is, that's fine. You know, I don't eat them. She might eat them. The daughter, like we're more thoughtful about like what we give our kids. So it is more of again, a lenient, a flexible lifestyle with more than 90% of our 95% of our food being plant-based, and healthy plant-based too. So if we're gonna cheat, we're gonna cheat with a vegan burger, which is great. We don't eat like, we don't crave the burger. My wife will eat maybe meat 2 or 3 times a year. So I think that's a great progress from someone who would eat animal products every day,
right,
maybe even 2-3 times a day, to a very, very occasional. I think that's good.
Right, absolutely. So all 3 of my kids now in their 20s. My daughter's in medical school and I have 2 in college, and they're plant-based, but maybe 1% of the time they do something similar.
That's fine. That's fine. It's fine.
Absolutely. The idea is moving more towards that if you can.
Yeah.
So do you use what do you use in material do you use now in your comedy that you're writing now? What is your favorite subjects?
No, it's always political. It's 100%
Political?
political. So it's
Okay.
I do a one man show. It's an hour long, and half of it is like my life in Egypt, and the second half is my life as an immigrant in the United States.
Mm.
And I use politics, and I use humor, and I use stories that I've been involved in, and yeah, I enjoy performing.
Because you have a second, so on Netflix, I saw two documentaries, and one's about democracy. So what was your inspiration to do a documentary on
Oh,
your
that was a
side of?
that was a docu series called Democracy Handbook.
Uh-huh.
I did it with Fusion TV. It was kind of a small project that we did. It's on YouTube. I don't have to go to Netflix for it. But it was kind of like a guy coming, at that time, I think that was the rise of Donald Trump.
Uh-huh.
And we did the show like comparing democracy in Egypt and with the United States. And I had fun. I had so much fun shooting it.
It really made someone think. I'll say that, coming from this end of it. And I've only been to the Middle East when I was in the Air Force, so I never experienced it as a
Mm.
tourist or something. But when you're looking at your political satire that you're doing, so what are your favorite things to write about or speak about, or can you give us some of your material that you might be
So,
using?
so, some of my material will be like I described the moment where I was interrogated for 6 hours for my jokes in Egypt. That was fun because they asked me to explain my jokes, which is ridiculous. I talk about actually attending a Donald Trump rally and a Donald Trump acceptance speech to run for president in Cleveland, and how people reacted around me. That was fun too. And then going out to Cleveland, find all of those people with semi-automatic guns, and that was equally fun. So I talk about the stuff, but I also talk about like something that is more personal, about like how I perceive my life as someone who's supposed to follow expectations of other, and now he wanted to rebel against it. And I think this is a message that is that resonates with a lot of people.
Absolutely. So when you think that you spent all this time, because you did practice for several years medicine, do you ever miss that or
No,
desire to go
no,
back? You don't miss
no,
it?
no. I have to be honest. No.
All right, that's fair enough. Wow, because it's my husband's Filipino, so I understand. They tell you're the businessman, a doctor, or an engineer. He was an engineer. So I get that.
No, in Egypt, it's a doctor, an engineer, or disappointment.
Oh my
These are
goodness.
your choices.
That's the running. Oh my goodness gracious. As far as I know, we're running a little shorter on time. Can you tell us any last bit of advice you have for someone who's considering going plant-based diet, or maybe someone who's thinking about it and they're running into that resistance? Do you use humor to kind of diffuse the situation and get people to at least open their minds?
Humor is a good opening method, but at the end of the day, it has to be information and knowledge. And I always defer people to the Forks Over Knives. To now, we have a wonderful documentary, The Game Changers, the Cowspiracy. There's of course the books, the websites. I send people websites like stuff to read, and now I'm happy that I integrate all of that in the website, because there's everything, all of the questions that people have, whether it was about eggs or dairy or calcium or minerals or vitamins, or where do I get my vitamin B12. And I think it is important that people can, I think the way that we should help people to switch into a healthy lifestyle is not to shock, not to frighten, but to inspire. I think that is the key element. When you inspire people, and kind of like and empathize with them instead of criminalize them or criticize them for eating meat. You should because for 40 years of my life I was that person, and I understand how difficult it is to give up meat or give up dairy, and you should be supportive. You should not be you should not be anal basically with those people, and you're doing it from a point of helping. But also a lot of people would listen to you. You have to understand where they are in life. So someone, for example, with a medical condition will be more likely to listen to you. They will be more motivated to try it because they might have, like, you know, tried everything. And it doesn't have to be like a chronic disease. It could be as simple as, I'm tired, I don't have energy, I don't have sleep well enough, I have constant constipation, I have a problem with my with my day-to-day life. But someone who feels invincible and you say, yeah, I'm good, you have to understand, have to understand like when to stop pushing. And you can only hope to just lay out your opinion and tell them, and at least if you don't gonna make them follow the plant-based diet, at least you can debunk some of the misconceptions about being vegan. Like, you're gonna be weak, or you're not gonna have enough protein, or you're gonna have some malnourishment. And you have also to explain to them what is the difference between vegan and plant-based whole food diet, because a lot of the people who want to antagonize you, they will. It's very easy to bring any article on the internet to prove your point. Any point you want. I can get you 5 articles right now telling you that the Earth is flat. Is it? Anyway, so they will always get like this article saying that vegans are not as more healthy. It's like, yes, those are vegans. These are like people who eat, you know, fried French fries and chips and potato chips and fried everything and high calorie, high density, high fat processed stuff is vegan, but it's not healthy. And you have to explain these nuances and these differences. So all you can hope to, when you sit with someone, we should not evangelize it. We should not, it is not a cult. You should not treat with it as a cult, because people will be alienated. You can always have to come from a point of empathy and a point of respect and a point of genuine care and sincerity towards what you want their health to be, and just, like, you know, make your point. And I think and whoever want to follow, you know, everybody's an own person.
I think that is sage advice. So I know when I speak to my patients, honestly, just giving them hope, and that looking where they're at currently and saying, you know, there could be a different life, and saying where this different future could be and how the plant-based diet could help get them there. And I think that's an easy way, because people always are looking for something better in their future. So, but your website is full of information. I'll actually be using it quite often now with patients, because it's very thorough and very thoughtfully done, and will grab their attention. So it's done from the perspective of infotainment, so to speak. And I do appreciate you offering another resource for people like us on the trenches, helping.
Thank you. And we're very happy also to be able to finally come up with Arabic content. And that, because we have zero Arabic content about plant-based diet.
Wow. Because there's a rise, isn't there, of diabetes and heart disease?
Oh, this year we have surpassed America in diabetes and obesity. So good for us. Yeah.
The American diet has been spread.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much for your time and speaking to us today. And we so appreciate everything that you're doing. Wish you the best in your new career as a comedian.
Thank you.
Yes.